article, you talked about sleep debt. And I know I've read several articles, not just by you, but by other people talking about how do you, if you find yourself in sleep debt, it's hard to make up those hours. And that's why people recommend napping. And you had brought up about if you're falling asleep around 3 o'clock or after lunch, you feel tired, you're probably in sleep debt. So my question on the sleep debt is, obviously you hear the different things, 7 to 10 hours of sleep, but there's got to be a truth of quantity of sleep's one thing, quality of sleep's another. And is the quality of sleep, if you can get more hours of quality sleep, is the actual duration that important? And if I am in sleep debt, and how do I do things to manage that? I know one thing that I've heard from numerous people is trying to stay in your routine of, if I go to bed 10 o'clock every night and wake up 6 o'clock every morning, don't think on the weekends I'm going to sleep to 11 and make up what I lost during the week.
So sleep debt, it builds up over time. And the most sleep debt we think you can have as carry is right around 50 hours of sleep. So it's not like, man, I must have 6,000 hours. No, it's going to tap out around 50 is what we believe today. So you can chip away at it little by little. And when you start to chip away at that sleep debt, that's when you start to see, a lot of the really amazing things of performance, and really a lot of things that we can do as humans become unlocked. I don't think it's a hack. I think it's just, this is how we should be performing. And what we do is we're performing substandard. And then when all of a sudden we get good sleep, we're like, wow, what a great performance hack. It's like, no, now you're just working optimally, right? You're not working like way better. This is just where you should be.
Yeah, it's nothing like you went like, oh man, I got this magic supplement. No, this is what you're supposed to be like. You've been just behind the other days.
Exactly. This is exactly where you're supposed to be.
Right.
So you can pay it back over time. But again, it takes time. It takes patience. You should try to elongate your time in bed, because that increases the likelihood that you're going to get more sleep and better sleep. So yeah, it's a combination, to answer your question, between of quantity and quality. You need both. And then also over time, you want to try and stick to those same times, right? And then that can tie into like chronotype. Are you a lark or an owl? Meaning, are you an early to bed, early to rise person? Or are you like a late to bed, late to rise person, right? Or you could fall somewhere in between. And typically that's determined by how you would sleep on an off day. So like not during the work week. Right. If you were just to have an off day and you say, okay, if I was an off day, I'd go to bed at like midnight and I'd wake up at 9 if I could do that, right? So we probably know that you're going to be more of an owl. There's more to it than that, but essentially that's kind of how you start, is by looking at sleep on off days. And then the likelihood that you're going to get better sleep or better quality sleep is increased there too. Because like if I'm an owl, so I would like to go to bed around midnight, maybe later. Go midnight to 8 a.m. would be ideal for me. Right. And if I got those 8 hours, but I went to bed like at 10 and woke up at 6, I feel completely different. I feel terrible. So those are some things you have to consider. Sometimes it may not be that, it may not come down to the quantity and quality of sleep. Sometimes it may come down to when you're sleeping as well.
Yeah, it's funny because when obviously in a team setting, when I was working with the team, and my schedule was a lot different, my routine was different. I was at 8 to 4. Like I'd go to bed at 8 o'clock at night and be up at 4 and be ready to roll. Now I seem to be, because my schedule's changed, my routine's changed, I'm more of a 10 to 6, 10 to 6:30. And it's funny because when I'd come home on the weekends, when I was an 8 to 4 guy, it looked more like that 10 to 6:30, because now I'm interacting with my family, and my wife's more of a midnight to 7, where I need a little bit more sleep than she does. But I've found now, like my routine now is starting to be, around that 10-ish, 6 to 6:30, and start my day then, which in some ways I tend to feel guilty, because usually by 6:30, back in the old day, I'd be like halfway into a workout or a training session. So it's kind of changed. But then again, then I look at it from, I always felt my best training time for me personally during a training week was around, 10 a.m. So I'm kind of still looking at things at this point in the training as far as that. But I do notice that if you're erratic in your going to bed times, it throws everything off. Like if you're trying to go to bed one day at 8 because you got to get up at 4 to do something versus the next day you're at 10, then you're at 6, and then you're at 11 and 9, and then it's just not copacetic to a quality long-term process of being in optimal, like you said, in an optimal position to have a pretty solid day.
Yeah. So like the example, we call it sleep hygiene, right? That's what we call it when it's quality, quantity, and consistency of that quality and quantity. And it's no different, using your analogy you just spoke about, the consistency, than brushing your teeth, right? You just don't wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm just going to brush my bottom teeth today. That's it, right? Maybe I'll do my top tomorrow. Maybe I'll do my front teeth on Wednesday, right? You do quality, you do the same quantity, and you're consistent with your teeth every day. Why? Because you know the downside of not doing that. You know that there are some consequences. There's a cost of doing business that way. So, and sleep is no different, right? If you have that inconsistency and the quantity and quality is off, don't expect feeling great. Don't expect longevity. Don't expect great strength gains. Don't expect optimal metabolism of foods. You're going to encounter anxiety. You're going to get cranky. You're not going to be as cognitively sharp. I mean, just expect it, right? You guys, no pun intended here. You sleep in the bed you make, right?
Right.
And if you're not sleeping, that's what you're going to get.